the News Channel 5 network, this is Inside Politics.
Hello, everyone. I'm News Channel 5's political analyst, Pat Nolan. Welcome to Inside Politics. While much of the focus of our national politics these days remains on the upcoming midterm elections, there's been lots of foreign policy-related issues in the headlines as well, especially this week. To put it all in perspective, we've asked Vanderbilt University professor Dr. Thomas Schwartz to join us again. Dr. Schwartz, I think it's been an extraordinary week in foreign policy area.
Indeed, yes.
North Korea summit, we've had all the things going on with the tariffs, even many of the things going on in terms of immigration. I've never seen people quite as upset as when you're starting to see these pictures and stories about adults and parents being separated from their children.
Absolutely. No, this is there's a whole set of issues that are coming in that really reflect on how the United States deals with other countries, and some of them would have been seen maybe as not as significantly foreign policy, even things like tariffs or trade, but immigration as well. That this immigration, the image of the United States, separating children at the border, refusing asylum to victims of domestic violence or gang violence, all of that I think is affecting a larger sense of what the United States' role in the world is and how it, or whether it should be a moral exemplar in its own policies.
And it appears in this particular situation, of course, the president has always wanted to sort of keep people guessing. He's been sort of a bull in the china shop in foreign policy. He seems to be that way across the board. I mean, we are not only at odds with our enemies about tariffs or our potential rivals, we're at odds with our allies about this, maybe even more so in the last week with what happened, not this past week, but the week before with what happened with the G7 in both, involving both France, involving Canada.
Yeah, no,
Mexico.
we seem to be right now in the midst of a series of fights, disputes with our closest allies. Canada in particular, of course, was the one that erupted because of the president's tweet after Prime Minister Trudeau made some comments about Canada standing up for itself. President Macron in France criticized the president for embracing Kim Jong-un too closely. Angela Merkel said she was depressed, of Germany said she was depressed by the way in which the G7 was conducted. It seems that the president's closest friends these days are people like Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin, who he's now trying to have a summit with in the short term.
Now, the president had, I think, an extraordinary presidential summit with Kim Jong-un this past week. After all that was going on last year, particularly when it looked like we were on the brink of nuclear war with North Korea, who would have thought that this would all be solved, at least in President Trump's mind, with 4 hours in a hotel in Singapore?
Well, it's not solved.
Do you buy the president tweeted that there's no longer a nuclear threat from North Korea. Well, that sounds like solved.
It sounds like solved, and I think with the president, you know, even when I think he makes a constructive move, you have to take into account that it's going to be exaggerated immensely. What is the case is, of course, that I do think the levels of tension and the sense that there will be war in the Korean Peninsula, which was very high last year, so much so that we even had a nuclear alert in Hawaii, that has dissipated. Now, whether and how this all works out is going to remain to be seen. But there was something of a breaking of a taboo, in the sense that now the United States dealing directly with North Korea, the president actually doing something that past presidents had not done. It gives me some sense that there will be a direction now of some type of change on the Korean Peninsula. And remember, in this particular case, this was very much something that the South Koreans wanted. So the president in this case was not as alone as he's appeared in the manner in which he's dealt with the G7.
But in the case of Korea, he seemed to put some things on the table and settle some things that he had not even talked to the South Koreans about. We had these annual exercises and war games with the South Koreans that he now says the U.S. is not only going to do because it's too expensive and it's provocative. He said all the things that North Korea has said that's been bad about it, and has decided we're not going to do it. And it's not clear that the United States got anything in return from North Korea on it, or did we get something?
That's right. No, I think that there is some concern of canceling the exercises. So the only thing is that I think with Trump, you have to realize he could simply restart the exercises tomorrow too. I mean, it is not as if these decisions with him are as irrevocable as sometimes they may seem. In that case, I think, I do think we should not underestimate the degree to which the South Korean leader wanted Trump to make an initiative toward the North and wanted him to make this meeting, and that this is part of their own plan as well.
What if you're in the Pentagon? They didn't seem to be in the loop of that either when it came out. I mean, is it a little scary that the commander-in-chief is not talking to the people who have to carry out his orders? They don't know what to anticipate, what to expect?
This is not terrifically surprising, though, because I think that they are not always. Trump is unpredictable, and he is going to be taking actions that I think will be a surprise. What would be interesting in this, and it's been interesting that Secretary of Defense Mattis has been very quiet about it. Obviously, he didn't think it strong enough to make any sort of public statement. So, I do think even though this does look like a significant concession, that with President Trump, you can never be sure that he might not revoke it and change it tomorrow.
He didn't put it on the table. He didn't say he was going to do it, but he also raised the possibility of removing the U.S. troops in Korea that have been there for like 70 years. Is this again a negotiating ploy? For years, we've been very structured in our dealings with countries like this. Now it's strictly what President Trump feels like doing the day he walks into the meeting?
Yeah, I think this is that would be a far more significant move than canceling the war exercises, because once troops are withdrawn, they can't be placed back. But I think that one is also, that could also be directed toward China. There's a complex diplomacy here going on with China that involves both the sort of position of China in the region and its economic position, and also its ties to North Korea.
Well, since you brought up China, the big thing that's happening even as we speak has been basically the on-again, off-again trade war with China appears to be on, although the president says that we've already lost that trade war. He's just trying to get things back the way they used to be. Why would he want to be putting tariffs on $50 billion worth of trade with China at the same time he wants their help with North Korea, their continued cooperation?
Well, he's also wanting to keep them on edge in some sense. I mean, in a way,
or guessing.
It could keep them guessing as to exactly his behavior and methods. There is a lot of concern. Trump's oversize and style sometimes obscures this, but there is a great deal of concern, much more widespread than just the United States, with the way in which China behaves economically. Its intellectual property rules, or its infringement on intellectual property, its steel production and dumping. These are things that concern other powers. Trump himself sometimes makes it all about him, makes it all about the United States, but there are broader concerns here. So there may be some complex bargaining going on here with China. We've often wanted to disentangle economic and political issues. Trump brings them together in ways that are unusual for an American president, and it may be that that's something of what's going on here.
Dr. Thomas Schwartz from Vanderbilt University is our guest on Inside Politics. We're talking about what's been an extraordinary week in foreign affairs for the United States and the world. Back to continue our conversation after you watch these messages.